Perfecting and Reforming Personal Religion, Chapter 8, Breakdown, entitled Living by His Mercies. And so the last chapter had to deal with a passing away of the natural conversation in order to have the intended devotional experience. And in the language that we find in the Bible, it's often easy to attribute what is spoken to our human beings. When we hear the word sin, we think about human being. All of the illustrations that are given appear to be pointing to flaws within our human nature. So as if sin is embedded within, and that sin embedded within is the issue. But that would seemingly make no sense, that a creator that created sinful creatures would not be able to tolerate them and would need to do other things in order to get those things verified or certified within them in order for that creator to love or even appreciate them. The fracture that we have is not unwanted by the one that created us. And it is not accidental. The fracture that we have as human beings, it is intentional. And it is intentional for the fact of allowing us, depending on who we are and how long it would or will take us, to understand that there is within our human being a spark to our human being. And that spark to our human being allows our human being to prosper when it is at its highest potential. And so the point of it all, in order for our human being to get right, is for that spark within us to understand its level of consciousness so that it can then pass a certain level of consciousness to our human being so that our human being can understand wrong, decency, right, industry, life, health, love, and so on. But entering into the 8th chapter, this theme continues, and it continues in a stronger tone. That stronger tone being initially in the very first paragraph there, to present your bodies a living sacrifice. And those bodies that are being presented as a living sacrifice, they are bodies, plural. It is our body, the body of our faith, that we are supposed to give to an experience of devotional enlightenment, you could say, or of spiritual understanding from within the philosophy, from within the scriptures, from the philosophy within the scriptures. It is the body of our faith that is to be given, but essentially that body has bodies within it, just like our human body, our physical body, has bodies within it. The bodies within our body are organs. And so our faith's body has bodies within it, and those bodies are organs. Our faith has organs. The organs of our faith that are to be offered in sacrifice to the experience of communing with the philosophy that is within the scriptures. Those bodies within our faith are our faith's thoughts, our faith's feelings, the heart of our faith, the mind of our faith, the conscience of our faith. These are the bodies of our faith, and they are to be offered in sacrifice. They're to be offered in sacrifice for creation. Our conversation is to be created new. Our conversation going through this experience is to be created newly. And that new creation cannot happen from without, has to happen from within. And it happens from within as we allow the bodies within the body of our faith, as we allow the organs of our faith to go through the experience that they need to go through in order to move forward in the experience that they are to have. And so when we allow our experience to remain on words, and the words found within the Bible, the words found within those pages, when we allow our experience to be framed around those words, when we take those words and put them into real life practice, and then get back the wisdom, get back the understanding from them, no guide included, no nothing included, no preconceived notions, no opinion included, we are entering into this experience dead. Not we as in our human being, we as in our faith's thoughts, feelings, heart, mind, and conscience. The body of our faith, our devotional conversation, is entered into this experience dead. And that's sort of what the illustration of the crucifixion is pointing to. And this is what Paul is alluding to in Romans chapter 6, is that if we are really going to be with this man, and if we are really going to believe that this man has done something positive for us, then we need to also follow the like pattern of what we see positive in this individual. And that has nothing to do with imagining a sort of cartoonish, quote unquote, salvation, a sort of mythological or Sumerian type of salvation. Paul is in Romans 6 bringing into a reality of what the experience is, and where we see this individual dead, we too have to be dead. And the death that this individual died is a figurative illustration of the death that we have to also die. Now, this individual is physically dead. This is a physically dead individual. Physically dying is not going to get us to the point of what Romans 6 is about. There is another death for another body that we have to consider and that we have to partake in order to benefit from what that chapter 6 of the book of Romans is saying. The death that we are to suffer, what is to suffer death, is the body of our faith. And most importantly, the bodies of our faith. When you think back to the book of Leviticus, and when you're reading back into the book of Leviticus, and you're seeing how methodical, how in depth, there was a method and there was a purpose to every single offering of an animal that there was, whether it was an animal offering or it was an offering of baked goods. But keeping to the animal, because this fits more, because when you go back to Leviticus and you see how the animals were offered, you see that the priest had to take not just the animal and its skin, but the inwards of the animal had to take off and were placed on that grill. And then everything else. So it wasn't just that a body was offered for sacrifice, it was the inwards were also offered for sacrifice. And this is what is being spoken of when Paul is saying, present your bodies a living sacrifice. The organs of our faith have to be offered as a sacrifice, just as the organs of those animals formerly needed to be offered as a sacrifice. Each one of those organs actually means something symbolic to the ritual. And so when we're offering our organs, when we're offering our thoughts and our feelings, our heart and our mind, and the conscience of our faith to this experience with words within the Bible, it is all pointing back to a creation. And when you think about the offering of the organs onto that grill for that priest, for that smell to rise up, when you think about that, and then when you think about the creation associated with it, you think about the pain of that, you think about the experience of that, you think about how that is supposed to symbolize something not good and not feeling right. And that's the same things when it comes to us offering and sacrificing the organs of our faith. It is not an experience that is pleasurable. It is not an experience that is going to be decent for our human being to go through. Our human being doesn't want to go through this. Our human being would actually rather go through something that is less tasking, less demanding. Our human being would really want to do something else than to challenge its own thoughts and feelings with what it is actually thinking and feeling. But it is this challenge that awakens the essence that we have within us, the intelligent essence that is connected to the living God and to this experience, and then allows it to gain its own level, or to have awakened within it its own level of understanding and its own level of morality and its own level of industry, so that as we take what we're taking from the scriptures and we're feeding that body, what that body retains in intellect is going to then fall down to our human being, to feed our human being, to make our experience special. And all of this is for creation through re-educating our faith's intellect and character. So what we're living by the mercies of the living God. We usually take this word mercy as being lenient. It's not what this is in context. The mercies of the living God are the blessings or showers of edification that are given to us as we offer our bodies. As we offer our bodies, in return, we get showers of an edifying blessing to re-educate the intellect and the character of our faith. And this is all for our faith to be right or quote-unquote holy. It is not our human being, as we've seen from previous chapters, that is supposed to be holy. It is not our human being that we see in previous chapters of this book, Perfecting and Reforming Personal Religion, that is not to be considered holy or godly. The conversation is the subject of the dialogue within the philosophy of the scriptures. The conversation is what is to be godly. The conversation is what is to be holy. Our conversation is not godly, and our conversation is not holy. If our conversation was initially godly, if our conversation was initially holy, there would be no reason for Paul to say in the book of Ephesians, put off your former conversation, the old man, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on that new man or that new mind, which is renewed and created. Renewed and created. So the Bible itself is telling us that what we perceive to be a very valid conversation to the Creator, what we perceive as being generally thoughtful devotion, what we perceive as an awareness in our understanding and faith when it comes to what the scriptures are saying and when it comes to quote-unquote God, the Bible itself is telling us that we are wrong. We are wrong. And we are wrong. Why are we wrong? We are wrong because our faith, whenever we have it, whenever it's either inherited personally or adopted personally, our conversation is conceived within the religious world. Now, the religious world has a theory that is contrary to what is within the scriptures. If the religious world did not have a theory that is contrary within the scriptures, we would not have the scriptures telling us to put off your former conversation and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. The conversation we inherit or adopt or cultivate ourselves, it is an unhealthy and an ungodly conversation. Why and how? In this chapter, chapter 8, introduces, just like the previous chapters, why and how. Our conversation conceived within the religious world means that our conversation is conceived within rules and regulations of religion. The religious world is founded upon theory, law, standard, policy, practice, rite, ritual, commandment, and the doing of these things in order to find favor or to please the divine eye for a return of whatever we imagine to be returned through such actions and deeds. The founding principle within the religious world are acts and deeds via religious laws or theories or commandments or baptisms or rites or ceremonies or feasts or such and such, in order for the conversation to feel right, but primarily for the human being to feel good. The religious world's theory of religion and of devotion, it's for the human being to feel good. So long as the human being feels good, the human being feels as though they're doing something worthy to the Creator. So the religious world's operation is through deception because it is via emotion. There's no logic or sense in any of this. And at progressing in this book, Perfecting and Reforming Personal Religion, this is articulated and shown. But when we're relying on the religious world and its operation, we're relying on what stops us from purely and sincerely offering the body of our faith to the living God. We have this conversation that we have, and we didn't give it to ourselves. We have the faith that we have, and we didn't give it to ourselves. We've gone through whatever we've gone through, and the only thing that makes right sense to us is what is within the scriptures. We could have done anything else. We could have become alcoholics. We could have done other things and have those other things become our religion. But for some reason, whatever happened to us sparked something, and whatever we heard sparked something to get us to become attentive to what is within the Bible. Becoming attentive to what is within the Bible, we have turned to whatever preferred denomination we would have that would suit our lifestyle. Eventually, our conversation is going to come knocking. Because our conversation, while our human being is satisfied in its routine, in its religious routine, while our human being feels right to the deity, our conversation's conscience is going to knock and is going to say, remember me? I'm the one that got us here. I'm the reason we're here. How come I'm not getting the attention that I need, but you're getting all the attention you want? And so we're going to have to, at that point in time, choose, are we going to continue to remain in the orthodoxy? Are we going to continue to remain in the theory? Or are we going to pick up the words and learn them for our own self? To develop a level of understanding that we can examine, that we can prune and purge to keep for ourselves within. So long as we do not do that, we remain, as the Bible says, in bondage, or as I would say, enslaved by theory of religion. Now, being enslaved, we are putting rule ahead of conscience. We are putting standard and policy ahead of experience. We are believing that our experience is valid because we are doing rule and policy. But we don't understand that our heart is being taken away from us the more that we continue doing rule and policy. And so just like as the mother with the child in the womb has to give birth and that child has to take its first breath without its mother, so too our faith existing in our womb, the womb being our devotional conversations heritage, our denominational or traditional religious heritage, that's the womb of where our faith is. Eventually our faith has to exit that and be born. And we will have to hold our faith. Holding our faith, we will have to then have enough strength to let it go to the one that gave it. And so what we have and what I'm seeing is that there are a bunch of individuals whose faith yet remained within the womb of their devotional or their traditional denominational understanding. Their faith is still in that womb of their traditional religious understanding, and it has not given birth to them, and it never will, to be honest with you. Your denominational understanding will never give birth to your faith. That's the point of it. You're supposed to stay confined to it. It will never give birth to you. So many people I've spoken to, and in very plain and blatant terms, have told me that they are waiting to be converted by their pastor. I'm waiting to be converted when I'm sitting in church. I'm waiting for that conversion. I'm waiting for my pastor to say something to convert me. It's not going to happen. Our faith isn't supposed to, our denomination isn't supposed to give birth to our faith. Yes, we are hatched in the denomination. We're conceived, not we physically. Our conversation is conceived within the denomination. And you would think it makes sense for it to then let us go and to be born on our own. But that's not how this works. This is the religious world we're talking about. It lives and feeds off of the energy we give it by our faith. So while our faith is giving energy to our traditional understanding, our faith is actually on the inside withering and is very sad that it is not getting the attention from us that it needs to be given. While our human being is satisfied living in the womb of our traditional religious heritage, our faith is dying because our human being is content where it is. So we have to get that conflict aligned to where our human being and our faith's conscience are able to become one. And this is the point. This is the point of giving our experience to the scriptures. Giving our experience to the scriptures is not easy. It is life-altering. It is a re-education, but it is necessary because everything that our faith takes in falls back down to our human being and then comes out through the limbs of our body. We need this experience in order for our human being to be well, but our human being cannot be well until our devotional conscience is better. And so entering, still in the 8th chapter, Perfecting and Reforming in Personal Religion, entering to the 11th paragraph, this is talking about the process of this birth for the purpose of integrity. And when we're going through this experience, we need integrity to be able to remain in it. We should not be having a thing around our neck telling us our faith. We should not be having something hanging down from our rear view mirror telling us our faith. We shouldn't have something up on our wall telling us of our faith. We need genuine integrity, and that only comes from offering our thoughts and feelings to the experience. And should we do this, we will be able to advance for where we need to be devotionally, and also consistently, for the sake of our relationship with the living God, with the living God's wisdom, and then also with our own self.